I did that. Oh, you were. Oh, sorry about that.
Oh my god, I haven't got my jewellery on.
There you go.
Okay, let's do this. Hello, and welcome to Office Hours, the series where I have taken a step beyond the lecture theatre and into the lives of the lecturers that have shaped our uni experience. As you can see, I'm not joined by a lecturer today. I am by myself in my room, and it's going to be a bit of a different episode. By this point, I think Christmas would have been over, so happy Christmas, and we are coming up to New Year's, so again, happy New Year, happy 2026. I just want to kind of talk about the things that I've learned from this podcast, because there's been so much, and there's so much that I have to say about each individual podcast, so I just thought I'd do a little video wrapping up the season, wrapping up the year, and yeah, so let's get straight into it. So the first podcast that I did, it was so nerve-wracking for me. I remember being just sitting on campus waiting until, you know, the time that I had to film the podcast, and I was absolutely bricking. I remember calling my dad, like stressing out. I was like, I just need a bit of, like, you know, like hype me up a little bit. I wanted it to be so perfect, and I wanted it to be exactly like I'd thought out in my head. I had all these expectations. I'd spent weeks planning it, planning the intros, the outros, the questions, how I was going to do it, and I didn't actually think it would work. I didn't think any of the lecturers would actually agree to it. I thought it was going to be really, really tricky. But I went in, and immediately the first podcast I did was with Dr. Lena Matthews, and she was absolutely amazing. As if you've watched the video, you know that she does her own podcast, Queer Lit Podcast, and she had a lot of really, really amazing advice that she gave me off camera. But also the things that she was saying on camera about her podcast, it really, really helped me reflect on how I wanted to film and how I wanted to go about these podcasts itself. I still think there was a few nerves in there. Like, I think out of all the podcasts that I've done, that was one that kind of shaped me a bit more, which is actually kind of one of my questions. So there you go. It was one of the most reflective podcasts that I did. During that podcast, I tried so hard to stick to the script, and there was so much interesting stuff that she was saying, but I didn't really latch onto it. So I wish I would have gone in more depth about, you know, her life and about, you know, her growing up in a different country. That was something that I really tried to focus on with other lecturers that grew up in different places. I also learned that sometimes the lecturers were more nervous than I was. I think after the maybe second or third one, I kind of gained a bit of momentum, but I think going in, I kind of forgot that, you know, this is their first time doing it. So I was trying to remember myself the first time that I was, you know, doing my first podcast and how nervous I was. And I was trying to make them feel comfortable. I think that was something that I really wanted to, like, reiterate every single time I was doing a podcast. Like, it's conversational. There's no need to stress. There's nothing, you know, scary about it. I tried to make them really comfortable, even in the way that I positioned myself. Sometimes I sat more facing them instead of facing the camera. So that it kind of like made it a bit more conversational, a bit more just us two, kind of forgetting about the camera, forgetting about everything there. And I think that really, really helped. I found that it was a lot more interesting once they got a bit more comfortable. They were a bit more relaxed. Even I was a bit more relaxed. I also found myself being really, really interested in what they were saying, which, to be honest, kind of surprised me. I didn't think I would be so into it. I didn't even think that I would really relate to what they were saying, but I really, really did. I found that their lives were so interesting. They weren't just teachers, they weren't just lecturers, they were literal humans, which I think is a really, really big thing for students, is we don't kind of see our lecturers as people in a way. We kind of see them as these figures that are just teaching us and then they go home, but we don't really think about their lives outside of the lecture theatre. So that's what this whole podcast was about. It was kind of bridging the gap between students and teachers and lecturers and kind of merging the two. So they all loved this idea of progress isn't linear, because it's something that I thought was really, really important to speak about. And it was really interesting to see all the different lecturers' kind of journeys through their life, really, and how they came to becoming a lecturer. It was interesting to see their projects and how passionate they were talking about, you know, their work, because I think everyone wants a chance to speak about their work in a kind of format where someone's actively listening, actively asking you questions about it. And I just thought the way that they articulated it, it was professional but conversational. And it was something like, I feel weird just going to their office, I'd be like, hey, so tell me about your work, you know? Like, it's not really something students do. But I found that that's actually what they love. They would love it if students would come up and talk to them about their work, find out who they are, get to know them. And I think students love that as well. So that was something else that I kind of learned, was just talk to your lecturers, see them as people, you know? Don't be so intimidated. It's not school. At the end of the day, it is uni, so just relax. I also loved that some of the podcasts went in complete different directions than I thought. Some of them were really academic, whereas other of them were really a lot more personal. There were some that spoke about completely different things unrelated to literature that I was like, wow, I did not kind of put the two and two together, you know, but I just thought it was interesting how they kind of incorporated their interests into their work and into literature and into English. I thought that was really, really interesting. I was like, wow. It also meant that I had to, you know, pick it up on the spot. I had to come up with quick questions, but that was a lot more helpful because, again, I was more engaged. I was genuinely curious in what they were saying. It felt like such a casual thing where they were talking to me and I was asking questions, not even for the podcast, just because I was genuinely interested in getting to know my lecturers a lot more. So another really big thing was that I got lost in one of my questions. I kind of lost confidence with it. It was why I fell in love with my field. I thought it was too similar to some of the other questions I had asked. And I just kind of found that I would ask it and I felt a bit silly asking it because it was kind of saying the same thing as other questions. It was kind of merging the two together. So I think at just one podcast, I was just like, why am I asking this? Like I found after I asked the question, the answer was really, really similar to everything they had said. And it kind of sounded like I wasn't listening to what they were saying. I was just kind of sticking to the script. And I remember in one specific podcast, after I asked that, I was so focused on it and I felt absolutely ridiculous asking it. I was like, why would I ask that? So for the next few kind of podcasts, I didn't ask it framed in the same way. I asked it in a different way. And I kind of just wanted to like scrap the whole question completely. But what I found was that I regained my confidence with the question and I regained trusting myself. I had spent weeks planning all of these questions, planning everything detail by detail. And I needed to trust myself more in my questions and what I was doing. The way that the lecturers interpreted it, that was on them. And that was another kind of layer to the podcast, was the different ways that they interpret the questions, which I thought was interesting as well. The kind of question that I wanted to ask was, why do you love your subject? What is it about your subject that just not necessarily consumed you? Because that's where I would get confused with the other question. What is it about your subject that you love? Why do you love your subject? What is so good about it? But it was just really interesting to see all their different answers and the way that they interpreted the questions. But again, that feeling of just trusting yourself and, you know, I've spent so much time planning this. Just go with the flow, just, you know, relax a little bit more. Don't get so caught up on each individual question. So that was a really big thing for me. I remember as well, going back to the first podcast, I remember the feeling of like knowing this is going to work. Like I said, I didn't think any of the lecturers would actually agree to do the podcast. So when I started getting the responses back in the email, I was like, yeah, we can do this. And I had my, you know, Excel spreadsheet with all the times and the dates and the lecturers and their subjects. And I started going to them. Every single time I left a podcast, I felt this feeling of fulfillment and accomplishment. Like I have just done something revolutionary for not even for anyone else, for myself. I just felt so happy and content. I remember that feeling, especially after the first one, of like, I can do this is gonna work. And it helped as well that I actually loved it. I kind of went into it knowing that I was gonna love it, but I didn't expect that kind of fulfillment. I'm genuinely loving this. Besides, you know, the fact that, you know, people are going to watch it, the lecturers are going to watch it, whatever. For me, it was something that I genuinely loved. It's really, really different from my expectations. I kind of expected it to be a lot more professional, a lot more like sit down, like one-on-one interview. But I think it wasn't, because I had said to them, it's completely conversational. They were just kind of a bit more in the flow. And there were a lot of moments where we would just sit down and laugh. And it was like two friends just having a conversation, which I thought was really, really beautiful. And the fact that I was able to create this environment that was really comfortable for them and they were able to just flow naturally, just have everything, you know, go normal in a way, not have it so stressed and professional in the way that I thought it was going to be. So a really big thing that I learned about interviewing is that people, again, they love talking about their work. It's just something, this thing, people love it. And I love learning about other people and learning about their work. We're in this really unique time where, you know, we have these sort of mentors and they can kind of teach us these things from their own experiences as well. I tried not to say, and yeah, you know, like, yeah, I've tried not to do that as much, because when you kind of do that, I feel like it was kind of stopping the lecturers from what they wanted to say. It was kind of like ending the conversation. Whereas when I just kind of let it flow naturally, just kind of shushed my mouth for 1 second, you know, it just kind of let them flow and it just got them into it, and they were going into their head, expanding on their points. That was another really, really big thing that I was surprised by, because again, I don't think I could do this, where they were just expanding. They would have one really, really good point and they would go off on another point and another point, and it would just all connect, but in such an academic and professional way. And I guess this is something that you kind of gain from experience and from growing up and learning these things on the job, because I just feel like if that was me, I'd be stressing out a lot. Like, how do I expand on this or on this other thing? And oh my God, there's so much that I want to say. How do I articulate it in a way that is still academic and professional, but also like in a conversational way. But they just did it naturally. It just flowed. It was just amazing. It was really just lovely to see the lecturers talking about their work and talking about, you know, the things that they were passionate about in such a close, you know, comfortable environment. The biggest thing that I learned from this podcast was on the question of speaking to your younger self. Almost every single lecturer gave very similar or even the exact same answers. They all said, first of all, go to class. But it was all kind of related to this idea of we're in a really, really unique time when, you know, we have this experience with our lecturers, with our peers, where we can get feedback on our work, we can speak to each other, we can share ideas, we can communicate, collaborate, and they kind of express that you don't really get that outside of university, that university is kind of like the last step of that. Appreciate where you are, just take time to, you know, really live in the moment, appreciate your experience, don't take it for granted because it will go by so, so quick. And when you get to work, it's going to be something that you really, really miss. And I think that is something that I've taken with me a lot through this semester, and I think it will carry on through the rest of my life, but specifically my uni life. A piece of advice that I would give my past self, relating back to this question, before I hosted this podcast was, again, just relax. You know, you've done all the hard work, you've done all the stressing part, just relax and get to know your lecturers in a way. Don't see it so much as, oh, this podcast, just relax, just do it. Even if no one else likes it, you will like it. You know, this will be something completely life-changing for you in every single way possible. And I genuinely mean that. This podcast has been one of the best things I've done this entire year. When I came to uni, I didn't really want to come back at all. Didn't really want to join Stag Radio. I didn't want to do anything to do with podcasting. So the fact that I came back and I got this really amazing opportunity, not only to, you know, continue doing Stag Radio, but to continue doing these podcasts and getting to know my lecturers, it was honestly one of the best things I decided to do. And I think it's a really, really big thing that shaped my uni life. So I just want to say a big thank you to SK, who is the president of Stag Radio, and to Christy, the vice president of Stag Radio, for not only encouraging me to continue Stag Radio, offering me the role that I currently have now, but also kind of pushing me to do this podcast, you know, constantly giving me encouragement. Any question I had, I knew that I could go to them and just ask them anything. So yeah, thank you guys. Love you. I just want to give a huge thank you to Dr. Lena Matthews, Melanie Han, Dr. Liz Buzz, Dr. Becky Wills, Dr. Luciella Rose, Dr. Charlotte Mathis, and Dr. Danielle Dove. Thank you guys so much for coming on my podcast, first of all, and for giving such amazing answers, giving me such life experience, life-changing experience, and for really just taking the time to do this with me. Like I said throughout this podcast, I didn't think any of you would say yes. So the fact that you did, it was honestly an amazing experience. And I loved having conversations with you all. And yeah, let's hope next semester is just as good as this one. So those are my kind of takeaways from this season of Office Hours. I'm sure there are a lot more, but those are just the key ones that kind of stood out to me from these podcasts, from the lecturers, key takeaways that I took, and just things that I wanted to share with you guys before the new year. So stay tuned for more podcasts. I've got a whole long list of lecturers I want to interview when I get back. I hope you guys had an amazing Christmas, and I hope you have a very, very happy new year. And don't forget to do the following, the liking, the subscribing, the sharing, all of that YouTube stuff. And I'll see you guys in 2026. Bye-bye! And scene! Yeah.